brain is mush because mine has been mush all day. I was talking to Tom earlier, and he was like using like letters, abbreviations, and things, and I was like, dude, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. Like, and he's like, bro, how do you not know? I'm like, because my brain is completely fried. It's completely fried.
That I know. That's a feeling I definitely know.
Yeah, I feel like that has to do with, and let's just get into it, because I feel like that has happened to me because we are 9 years, I guess 9 years into this Jurassic World franchise, right? We're going on to the 10th anniversary next year, and I've been through it, man. I've been through like so much. I've felt, creatively burnt out. I've been tired, but at the same time, I've been excited, and I've been like, really excited to talk about things. But it's like it's weird thing where I'm just burnt out on like creating stuff, but also excited. It's a weird time. How are you feeling right now with 2024? Being like, what feels like a comeback year, even though it's never really gone away.
It definitely feels like a comeback year. I think that we're starting to see like this. Are we recording, by the way?
Yes, we're recording. Let's just do it.
Okay, sorry. You know what we were saying before we started recording about brains being mushed and being tired? Yeah. Anyhow, 2024 definitely seems like a comeback year. I agree that it never went away, but there is this strange essence of momentum that is happening right now that feels really positively focused. With the announcement of Jurassic Park Survival last year, and the obvious anticipation for more news hitting soon, probably in June, I imagine, maybe with Summer Games Fest. The release of Chaos Theory Season 1, which is just utterly phenomenal. All the news for Jurassic World 4, Jurassic Park 7, Jurassic Saga Productions, or even now Owl, maybe is the name, the working title, or whatever you want to call it. Like, it's obviously not going to be called, but
it's not Jurassic City. So are you saying that's out?
Listen, I don't know, so I don't want to say like I know for certain it's not Jurassic City, but like I made like there's a sci-fi thing on, or like a sci-fi movie or an asylum movie called Jurassic City. So for one thing, I don't think they're going for that title. And then another thing is, we know the working title is Saga Productions. So I feel like the Jurassic City thing probably isn't true. And if it turns out it's true, and like we verify that it was true one way or another, I'm unfortunately, I'm hoping it's not true, but I made a pledge on Twitter that I will eat a live worm if it ends up being true. Now, I really don't want to do that. That's how confident I am that there is no validity to that. So, God, I hope I'm right. But anyway, so yeah. A lot of news coming out about that. And, everything that we've been hearing for the most part has been extremely positive. And then when you look at next year, so we have Chaos Theory coming out, and then presuming that we'll have another season of Chaos Theory between now and December is probably the safe bet, and maybe even another season before the movie comes out. The movie, perhaps Jurassic Park Survival sandwiched sometime in between there, and then Jurassic World Evolution 3 coming out next year. It just feels like and then plus next year's the 10th anniversary of Jurassic World. It just feels like we are in this weird powerhouse moment for the Jurassic franchise that maybe no other year has aligned with during its kind of resurrection with Jurassic World. It always felt like nothing ever synced up. There was never like a constant transmedia momentum across multiple different mediums. And it feels just like all the stars are aligning, but not only that, it feels like they're aligning in a way that people are really positive and optimistic about things. And like I said, the first drop of the bucket is Chaos Theory, and that landed with a bang. I know that I loved it, like really, really loved it, and was really surprised by it, especially after being really disappointed by the final 2 seasons of Camp Cretaceous. Aside from the character development, the character development in the final seasons of Camp Cretaceous was phenomenal. Just the plot was bonkers. Is basically the best way to say it.
There's no denying that. Yeah.
There is so much love and care, and I put Chaos Theory, it's up there with the movies. You know, it's like Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and then Chaos Theory and Jurassic World tied
Ooh.
as my number three. Um, Now, given it's an ongoing series, and I might bump it down a little bit just depending on how that momentum continues, but it's just such a phenomenally made season with so much love and care. And yes, it's an animated show, and there's certain things that fly in the animated format that I maybe wouldn't want to see one-to-one in a live action thing, but it never feels like it breaks the logic. There's so much thought and care, and anyways, I'm feeling pretty good about that. How
Oh,
about
come
you?
on. You tell me you wouldn't want to see like that hunky Ben just riding Bumpy off into the sunset with an explosion behind him. Like, come on.
Almost you're
You're
jumping through
lying.
the air, the warehouse explodes. Yeah. Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I loved a lot about Camp Cretaceous. I loved Camp Cretaceous season 1. I loved season 3. I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
season 2 was more of a Saturday morning cartoon, and it kind of hit me. I didn't really vibe with it, but I didn't hate it. Uh, and then season 4 and 5 were it just that just kind of really that was like the jump in the shark moment. But again, all the character development is phenomenal and all that. So I don't want to write it
Yeah.
off entirely because I feel like the character development in Camp Cretaceous is a lot better than the character development in most of the films. So I don't
Mhm.
want to write it off entirely because I think that was just some phenomenal stuff, and they take all the best elements and mature it and grow it with Chaos Theory, and it's all
Yeah.
the better.
I'm so glad that you liked it because, like, there's a handful of people like that I know usually get like a screener or something like that, and I'll reach out and be like, "Hey, what'd you think? What'd you think?" And the consensus through everybody was we all love this thing. It was
Yeah.
really great, and everybody's like, "Yeah, but what's the catch?" Like, everybody's like trying to poke at me and be like, "Oh, you're shilling for DreamWorks or Universal or whatever," and like, I'm like, "No, I swear to you."
No.
Like, I'm trying to sit here and convince, like, my good buddy here on the show, Aaron, like he kind of jumped off the bandwagon, I think maybe around season 3 or 4 or something like that. And I'm trying to convince him to like dive back in. And he's like, yeah, but what about the ridiculous stuff? I'm like, it's honestly not really all that much there. I mean, there was maybe 1 or 2 moments, but nothing in terms of like, slow-mo riding on the back of a dinosaur, you know?
Yeah. It's like more of animation flourishes, but nothing that's actually plot driven. So it's not like, oh, they escaped a crazy situation in like this horribly unrealistic way. Like I saw some people saying, "Oh, this was very cartoony when Darius shoots the trank gun up in the air and the darts fall down comically." But like, I'm like, yeah, but that wasn't like a plot element, and that was like a 3-second gag, and it worked for me. And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily want to see that in a live action thing, but it didn't take away from the experience at all, and I thought it worked really well there, and I laughed. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
it sums.
Oh, I'm glad they did that because, like, he shot him in the air, and I was like, "Wait, they're not just gonna forget about those, are they?" And then
Yeah,
luckily they came
I
back
almost
down, and I
thought
was
the
like,
move.
"Oh, thank you."
Yeah,
Yeah, so but I'm glad you love that show, and it seems like a lot of other people. I've yet to, like, fully dive into, like, the audience reaction, but it seems like it's pretty positive. But, you talked about that excitement and everything as well for everything because, like, I think it started back, like you said, with Survivor?
mhm.
Which one was it? Survival.
Survival, maybe it's
Yeah,
Survivor.
I always get it twisted in my head,
There's been
but
too
same
many Survivor,
Yeah,
Jurassic Park, Jurassic World games at this point. It
I know.
title is
Yeah.
cursed. Hopefully, this one breaks that curse.
Yeah, but so that one, that came out, surprised the heck out of me. Jurassic Park label on it. Then we move in, around the corner, we move into David Kep, writing, and we're like, oh my God, Jurassic Park. We're like fully on the hype train for Jurassic Park, right? Like I feel like we all are. So we start to get these like little things here and there, and I'm feeling like reinvigorated a little bit. It's made me like more excited to start talking about things again and to create things again. Is that giving you that kind of itch as well, like to like kind of dive
Oh,
back into content creation and stuff?
yeah, I definitely was feeling burnt out for a while, and it primarily stems from the fact is that I want to be positive, and when I'm not really resonating with a lot of things, and the new content that's coming out isn't resonating with me, it's hard for me if I don't like it. It's hard for me to figure out how to navigate that because ultimately I just want to kind of have more of a positive experience with that. So if I'm not doing kind of like deep dive nerdy lore stuff, it's like the news, the movies, a lot of things that people engage with me on or like want to discuss with me. It's like I end up like I'm like, man, this is just kind of a weird pessimistic thing. Like, yeah, I didn't like Fallen Kingdom and I didn't like Dominion very much. And I think Evolution is a good game, but it's not for me. So
Mm.
that's another thing
Same.
where like I don't really know how to navigate the evolution stuff. Like, oh, cool, new dinosaurs, but it doesn't matter if I don't think the game's fun, so I'm not going to buy the new dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I can't even like, oh, there's these cool new animations that I can find out in the Gaming Beavers videos or Best in Slots videos, but I never get to see them while playing the game because everything keeps going wrong. He's got to manage it. You don't get to watch the dinosaurs, at least in like the way that you're supposed to play the game on
Yeah.
the more challenging modes. So anyhow, I get it. It's a simulation game, and that is what a lot of people want, but it's not for me. So I haven't had a lot to interact with that I've loved, and with Camp Cretaceous basically winning me over at first, then losing me at the end, I was like, man, I'm just. I
Yep.
think that positive momentum, it really has reinvigorated me. It kind of has my imagination going. Also, it's the fact that it's a whole new creative team. Kind of feels like the sky's the limit. We no longer know the formula. We no longer know what to
Yeah.
expect. There's a lot of unknown, and I think that unknown is inherently more interesting than the known. And I think that just gives a lot more to speculate, a lot more to speculate on, interact with, and kind of like scratch that creative, imaginative itch inside the head.
Yeah, that is interesting because like for a little while now we're just like, okay, I guess so Colin's out, right? Like we're all like kind of like looking around the room like where's Colin? Is he gone? Is he gone? And he's absent from every, not that there's been like press releases, but the trades and stuff have been, talking about the film and stuff. But then he comes out of nowhere with a chaos theory post and I was like, he's back. He came
But did
out of
he post
nowhere.
about the theory?
He did. Yes, he posted about chaos theory and it was just like, so excited to have this show out there in the world and worked so hard on it, whatever. I wanted to ask like Scott and Aaron, the producers of the show, but I feel weird kind of being like, so let's take the spotlight away from you guys and let's talk about Colin because I'm sure he didn't really do much, but I just want to know like what did he
I
contribute to
would
chaos theory?
like I think the word is he exited Universal at this like basically 2023 like ended like that was like sort of like he like departed and went his own directions with other studios. So I imagine then that he would have been involved. I mean, we see his credits. We know that he had some involvement with Chaos Theory. So I imagine he was very much present in the writer's room, the pitching, kind of kicking around ideas and everything along those lines. Um, I would be surprised to hear that he was actively involved in an official capacity over the
Hmm.
past year. I would not be surprised if he was involved in an unofficial capacity as they built these relationships and they sort of unofficially ping ideas back and forth or be like, oh, doesn't this shot look cool? And he'll be like, yeah, but what if you like put a moon behind it to like backlight it or like, like I wouldn't be surprised if he's had like some small, like unofficial involvement,
Uh-huh.
even after he was officially departed and whatnot. But yeah, it is interesting to see his
Yeah.
name involved, and I would love to know that dynamic. Because I think with Camp Cretaceous, he sort of gave them free reign. Um, and I'm curious if this time around, maybe because he wasn't working on the next sequel and like his story was now finished being told, if he had a better concept of how to like be like, okay, well, this would like kind of align with this. And what if you tried this? Because I guess when Camp Cretaceous was being worked on, he had not fully cracked Dominion, in
Mhm.
terms of, I remember them saying like they didn't get like the story for Dominion until pretty late in the process, like after the first 3 seasons were like basically locked in.
Mhm.
Uh,
Okay.
I think the only change they made due to Dominion was changing Bios into Manticore,
Okay.
which still
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me because I guess they didn't want it to be outed as Biosyn being a bad company. Because then why wouldn't the kids say something and why wouldn't the world know? But I guess it could have been one of those things where the audience knew and the kids never knew. But whatever.
Yeah, well, that's so difficult. That's where I am right now with like going into the show, into Chaos Theory. I was like, what? do I know versus like what do the characters know? I did think that as well. I didn't go back and like rewatch the scenes with Dodgson or anything, so I didn't really. I like completely forgot like what did these characters know, and why didn't they go tell people? Like Kenji, I guess was the only one who maybe knew, but I don't know how much. Again,
Did they encounter? I really can't recall. Did they encounter Dodson on the island? Or does
I
anybody
don't know.
encounter Dodson?
I think maybe Kenji did because he was like being groomed by his father, right? He was like, I think he like was wearing like a suit or something. I don't know if he was at those meetings with Dodgson or not, but and I don't know if Dodgson like showed his hand at all to Kenji. Like,
Yeah.
so it's this whole thing. I'd have to go back and rewatch, but I'm like, I don't know if I
So
want to.
can I talk a chaos theory? Speculative. It's speculation. It is pure speculation, but it would be a mild spoiler, or basically something that's not revealed in season one.
Yeah, why
Can I?
not? If it is, I'll bleep it out. I'll Raptor call you. You know.
Okay. So my theory is it must be Dodson that's wanting the kids killed because he must be afraid that they can identify him and Biosyn and implicate them in the Manticore stuff. It's the only thing. I can't think of anybody who would want to have them all killed. It's got to be Dodson. He basically sees them as a loose end and is afraid that they somehow know more than what they do, and can
Yeah.
basically screw up Biosyn's play for like. I mean, it's just a giant financial play to harness genetic power to enhance, agriculture, who knows what else, medicine,
Mhm.
etc. So I
And
imagine he's afraid they're gonna screw that up. So he's like, I guess we're gonna have to off them, which he's willing to do with
yeah.
Grant and Dominion. So
And there was like a little passing comment, I think, about locusts or something like that.
look,
So
I
I,
think we'll
I
see them.
was, yeah, I was surprised that they decided to do basically their own thing. Like we really didn't have to touch on anything, plot wise, I guess, from Dominion. We didn't get the Soyono Santos cameo. There was no Dodgson or anything like that. It was like they're just carving out their own little universe it's like their own stepping stone before the Biosyn stepping stone, which I kind of appreciate. It gives us more time to cook.
Do you want to know my theory of why we don't see Soya Santos?
Yeah, let's hear it, dude. Because I'd love to know.
They want a villain they can kill.
Okay, yeah. I mean, but
They
at the
want
same
a villain
time,
that just desserts. I think is basically what it comes down to.
and they're not shy, for killing people off this season. It's been kind of
No,
left and right, dude. Like it was wild. But I
they
think you're
want
right about that character, and they do give us a slight tinge of like not sympathy, but like connection with that handler character because like she does like corral these dinosaurs. She cares for them, obviously, but she's definitely a villain. So it's
yeah.
like it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, no, I totally, I found that helped round out her character a little bit more when we saw her have a bit of a relationship with the Atrociraptors. And also, I want to say I found the Atrociraptors more believable as trained dinosaurs. I think simply because we haven't had so many films establishing them as this very intelligent and wild force that cannot be tamed, that cannot be controlled. So I think Atrociraptors are a better approach. Like, oh, it's a raptor adjacent species, but one designed to be kind of controlled. I think that works a lot better than Velociraptors for me. Also, because we
Mhm.
never really see who and how and where and when they were raised. It also just makes it a little bit easier to digest. Like sometimes leaving less is more into making things believable. And with the Atrociraptors, I found it working a lot more. Also, the whistle works for me. I think just
Yeah, yeah.
the laser was always a little strange. The idea of there being whistle commands of like attack, come back. That's a lot
Mhm.
more. We don't control dogs with laser pointers unless we like are playing with our cat or something like that. I think that the whistle feels a
Yeah.
lot in tune with the way that animals are conditioned and controlled via
Uh-huh.
training. Um, and yeah, I don't know, it's worked. And some really interesting stuff. I remember when we were both reacting to messages over that Atrociraptor handler and how creepy and weird she is. And then how I was like, it reminded me of the
Yeah.
IDW comic, the one cover where it's like that lady on the cover with all the feathered Jurassic Park 3 velociraptors around her. And it reminded me of that one
Yeah.
shot from uh, episode 6, maybe episode 5, episode 6, when all the raptors are the Velociraptors are around the handler.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm gonna be curious to see what they do with that character, because I'm gonna be curious to hear her talk. You know, or
If
will
we
we
ever
never?
do, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I never like checked the credits for any kind of name or anything, and I
it
can't
wasn't.
imagine that they didn't cast anybody, right? There's nobody there, so yeah,
There
I don't know.
was a name. There was a
Oh, was
name.
there? Was there
There
like
was a
like
name.
a
I
like a
Yeah, I got
noise?
like a little, uh, uh. But yeah, there was a credited name, and
Okay,
she's credited as the handler, if I recall correctly.
I know.
So
Yeah, I didn't check any of that. I just ran with what Kenji said, and because I don't know which name I prefer, Micro Bangs or the handler, because Kenji called her that, and I'm like, that's a name right there.
what is the villain's name in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Oh, yeah, that's, Irina Spalko. That's the one I was thinking of too. It's very much looks like that. I mean,
It looks like they got Mia Goth to play Irina Spalko because of the like the
yes,
eyebrow complexion thing. I was like, this is
the
like
hair, yeah.
I'm like, this is like you mix those two together, and that is the villain. Some of the storyboard artists and concept artists and whatnot have been sharing images on their Twitter and Instagram from it, and they shared some storyboard sequences of her. And believe it or not, she even looks more unhinged in the
Oh
storyboards.
god.
Her eyes are even more crazy, but like they nailed it. Like the storyboards and what that you have in the show is like, oh wow, this is very much like on point.
Yeah, I think that character was maybe one of the more wild parts of the story that it'll be interesting to see how that person connects with everybody. I don't know if it'll be everybody's cup of tea, but I'm interested to hear at least.
The thing is, she never does anything that's like too far out there. It's mainly just the visual depiction,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
it's like one of those things where I was imagining. I was like, well, if this is in live action, I think the visual depiction would just be different, and all of
Mhm.
her actions themselves work. So it never really broke it for me. But I definitely did feel she kind of felt like more at home as like a Sith from like the Star Wars animation series and whatnot. Like I was like, this is like big Sith Star Wars energy right now. Or an Inquisitor, I should say.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's yeah, like an inquisitor or like ventress or something. I could see
Yeah.
it, like yeah. So that I mean, yeah, that show killed it. There's so much going on right now, with this upcoming film and you mentioned we talked about survival a little bit and even Frontier has something brewing on the horizon, I guess, with
Yeah, I mean, Universal execs on LinkedIn have straight up called it Jurassic World Evolution 3.
okay, yeah,
And
yeah.
they have straight up said releasing in conjunction with our next movie. So there you go. It's aiming for 2025. Doesn't mean it'll hit it. It could get delayed, but I think we're talking fall 2025 for the game. Um, so
Do you
yeah,
think I could do you think they're gonna be able to do this? Let's just be honest. 2025 comes and we've got new movie, 10th anniversary, new games all over the place, theme park stuff, this show happening all in conjunction with it. Like, are they gonna pull it off? Like, are we gonna get what we kind of expect from this?
um, I'll be real. I think the 10th anniversary celebration will be very, very half cooked, if at all. So I do expect 10th anniversary to be nodded to, but not necessarily like what it probably could or should be.
Mhm.
And I think that is in part because it's going to be competing against Chaos Theory and Jurassic World 4. Jurassic World 4, I think one of the complaints that we might have when that movie comes out in terms of merchandise is it not really aligning with the film because
Yeah.
the merch, toy partners and whatnot found out at the same time that we all did. And it's completely thrown a wrench into the 2025 plans. And typically, toy lines need to be planned out about a year in advance. So the deadline is ticking to hit a normal release cadence to line toys with shelves. And I mean, we saw how poorly Mattel did with Dominion with the more traditional release pattern where all of their toys were either not based off of a film design at all or based off of wildly outdated key concept art, like the Therizinosaurus. And what's crazy to me is Mattel never even changed I mean, I understand you probably can't change the sculpt, but Mattel never seems to like change decos once they like approve them. Um, I just remember when the Therizinosaurus came out, I was like, I'm sure they had enough. Like we've seen the trailers for it months
Yeah.
and months. I'm sure they had enough time to change that paint job. But it seems like a lot of these large companies basically have so many processes and procedures in place that basically, even though there's technically time to get it through all the hoops and ladders and sign offs, it's like there's not enough time. So I think we're gonna end up
Yeah.
with some wonky merchandise or just some filler merchandise at first is my best
You
guess.
know, it's been all over the place, not even just with Jurassic, but with everything. I go to McDonald's the other day, and I have a Red Hulk stuffy in my like a plush in my hands, and that movie's not coming out till who knows when. I don't know,
Yeah,
next year, maybe
they
sometime.
have they shown anything from the movie?
They've shown
No.
like a few images, no Red Hulk. They've never shown that off. But like that's the toy that's in McDonald's that every kid can have in their house.
Yeah.
And then like a character named Ruth, and you're like, well, who is this? like,
Who
like
knows?
so like things have been all askew, I think, with different strikes and Hollywood
Mhm.
not knowing when they're going to release things, and toys are just coming out at odd periods of time, and it's happened forever, but like it just feels like it's happening even more and more so. So it's not surprising, but and the fact that we've gotten uh well, however many years since 2018 of just like movie stuff, but then so much filler stuff that we'll be fine for a little bit. We'll be
Yeah.
perfectly fine. you know
My only worry is sometimes we see that once they land on an inaccurate design, we never
True,
get like
yeah.
a proper chance. So it's like one like still waiting for a Morris Intrepidus. As far as I'm concerned, Mattel's never done one. And where's the Oviraptor?
Hmm.
Just like,
I,
where's the Oviraptor?
I stopped keeping up, man. I couldn't tell you what is even made or not made anymore. I feel like the core stuff is just kind of just going so rampant that I can't keep up. For a while I was
Yeah.
trying, and then I was just like, I'm out, and I can barely keep up with the Hammond collection as it is. So, it's a lot, and I think like over the past however many years, like we've had a lot of pros and cons, and I think like that's kind of like a con, I guess, is that like there's too much stuff like in terms of like the Mattel stuff. I think it'll be interesting to see like how long is this going to keep happening for. Are we going to I mean, I don't see why they have no reason to stop, like to keep filling this in with all kinds of merchandise. So I don't know, it'll be interesting to watch it play out over the next few years, and then whatever else happens after this next movie, like
I
I don't know.
agree it's too much stuff, or at the very least, I agree it's too, or I would say it's too directionless.
Hmm.
Whereas certain toys in the same toy line look like they belong to completely different franchises, completely different art direction. I don't really see a cohesive vision going through the core line of Jurassic, and I think that needs. I think it needs a unified, cohesive vision, and I think they need to better unify the art style, as well as like certain concepts like the play patterns, and maybe rely less on gimmicks and more on like I don't know. I think play pattern is a better area to invest in over gimmicks. So I always thought like the golden triangle of Jurassic was like dinosaurs on the top, obviously, and then the pillars are like humans and vehicles. That creates a full play pattern that like basically encapsulates what Jurassic Park is with its
Yeah.
sequences. Um, and I feel like it's a little too even though it's always going to be lopsided, it's too lopsided with Mattel's direction. I don't see a play pattern that emerges that stimulates younger play, younger imaginative play. I think that I see a lot of random dinosaurs coming out, but it's not really stimulating the imagination because there's no necessarily invented lore behind them. There's no, it's just 20 different velociraptors. At the very least, start giving them some sort of terminology or naming, whether it be things like Highland Velociraptor and Lowland Velociraptor, or
There
something
you
as
go.
simple as, jungle velociraptor, swamp I don't know. I think that when you start releasing bright red, like orange and black velociraptors, call it a lava velociraptor at that point. Like just embrace the
Yeah.
wonky. Create
Like
something if you're not doing film stuff, create some imagination.
that's
So
yeah.
easy to about, and it would stimulate the imagination of the younger audience, and it could kind of create that role play and storytelling.
That's what I've always wanted, right? From the Mattel stuff. We're sort of like tiptoeing that line, with some of the stuff we've gotten recently. But I love the fact that the old Kenner stuff was like, here's some characters and some dinosaurs, and you can create your stories and build off of these, ideas of like the Dino Trackers or whoever, like the whatever all the different characters were. There were so many like Harpoon Harrison and characters like that. You're just like, I can create a whole backstory for these characters. And then you have like you mentioned like the lava raptor or something, like the Cyclops raptor we used to have. Like
Cyclops
that was
after
that had such a backstory for me because it just was scarred and it had just
Yeah,
blind in one eye. Like that's
it
it.
was
Like
a
that's
design. It was a unique, good, ownable design,
mhm.
and really good sculpting, good paint work, something that made it unique, and it just wasn't the same raptor regurgitated 27 times. And while Mattel's raptors aren't horrible or anything like that, there's not a single one that is accurate to the films. And I'm like, if you're gonna keep pumping out raptors, just please. And they keep slightly retooling them, so it's not like they're not changing them, but they're not really investing in a lot of change. But I'm like, please, just start. Make a Jurassic Park one, make a Jurassic Park 3 one, make a Jurassic World one. Like, you've made enough variations that there's no reason not to have film accurate ones or moderately film accurate ones at this point. Same with the
Yeah.
Pteranodons. We still haven't got a Jurassic World Pteranodon, which is really funny to me. They're all an amalgamation of the Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World design, and I don't know why. But there's not a Jurassic World Pteranodon toy from Mattel yet, and it's really confusing to me. I mean, it's just remarkable. It's remarkable how much it doesn't make sense. Um,
Sure.
well, there's certain things that I would love to see, and yeah, like Harpoon Harrison, Jaws Jackson, Scrap Davis,
Uh-huh.
Skinner. You don't have to go as far as that. Like, you can actually infuse it within, like, you can try to bring it closer to the lore of the films. So you can have like DPW agents or yeah, Department of Prehistoric Wildlife agents, but then you can imbue them with a little bit of character and name. Like, imagine a Star Wars toys if they just had like a new design that was their own and they just called it like Droid.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
just like
well, that
Droid.
that was the
Here's the
fun of that was the fun of the original Star Wars toys was they had like, interesting names and nobody knew anything about these characters. That they hadn't
Or
seen the movie or anything. They just had these cool characters, you know?
yeah, and when they would create a unique version of like a species or something like that, they wouldn't just call it a Gungan. It would be a Gungan Badaba, or it'd be a character within the Gungans or something like that. It wasn't just Gungan, and like you look at it and you go like, well, I don't recognize this. Like, I can tell it's a Gungan, but I don't really. They
Yeah.
imbued it with ownability, with unique direction. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, we'll sort of get it right. Like, it was like, okay, we're gonna do one, but it needs to be different. Like, let's like
Yeah.
watch it different. How's it different? I just want to
I
see that take Jurassic, because Mattel keeps pumping out some great stuff, but also some stuff that just, like, I don't know, it's not from the movies. Doesn't look like it's from the movies. It's got a giant head, a short tail, and big funky feet, and looks like it's from like Ark Survival Evolved. Like,
the
I don't know. That's not a
the
Jurassic
not
Park toy to me.
the 93 stuff has been really like
That young
good, and I
T Rex.
think yeah, and like it's kind of doing that storytelling that I want. Even though it's characters that we already know, right? It's the dinosaurs, but then also like Dennis Nedry or Ray Arnold, but it gives them kind of their own unique backstory, and it's really fun. I like that's the kind of stuff I like. When I got Alan Grant with a nuclear weapon back in the day, it was like, what is this? Like that's the kind of stuff I love seeing from this 93 stuff.
Ray Arnold wearing the Dino vest, like the vest that Roland Tembo had from the Lost World
Yeah.
toy line. Such a unique. I didn't think like that. I just looked at it. I was like, damn, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I
Or
said that the other night in my recording. I was like, "Is that the Roland
yeah,
vest? It looks exactly like it."
and the Young T Rex. What's remarkable about it is so far the '93 Classic line has been very careful to pay homage to Kenner, but like not really not be too accurate. That '93 Classic Young T Rex skull looks like 1-to-1 to the Kenner skull,
Mm,
basically.
yeah,
And the paint job, once again, is basically 1-to-1. I looked at that and went, oh, they seem more bold with like directly paying reference. I kind of wish now, like, look at the 93 classic Nedry and Velociraptor set. I look at that more and I go, man, I really wish they would have done something a little bit more Jurassic Park 3 with that Velociraptor then, like,
Sure.
clearly that Alpha Raptor homage, because that would have just made it all the cooler in the sculpt. I just think that would have
Yeah.
been a way better set if that were just clearly a Jurassic Park 3 inspired sculpt. But yeah, I'm excited. And do you want to have you speculated on what the Jurassic World Reimagined collection is?
I mean, the other night we were kind of talking about what if it's like the 93 line, if it's just like
Yeah.
a Jurassic World version of that, like with Simon Masrani with a rocket launcher, like stupid stuff like that, like I would love that.
That's what I think it is. I seen some people have speculated, like, what if it's like Jurassic World reimagined as like the dinosaurs, what if they were scientifically accurate, which I think is a really cool
Hmm.
idea.
Yeah.
I do think that's a really fascinating and cool idea, and I won't complain if they do go in that route. But what I imagine it is a rebranding of the 93 Classic Collection so that it can fully encompass every film and every character. So I think it's going to be the 93 Classic methodology and collection just expanded across all films, and it will be no longer be directly referencing Kenner items. It will just be built with that design methodology in place. So it will be something that we've never seen before. Like you said, Simon
Yeah.
Ron, but it'll just be like, yeah, let's bring that energy that like Kenner had back in the day. And
Yeah.
what I love about 93 Classic so far is they're not throwing away film accuracy to a degree as well. So it's like the human face is still, you see the likeness, the
Hmm.
dinosaurs still feel authentically sculpted for the films, but then there's something unique about them as well. So I think if that is what it is, and they're going to expand that collection into something a little bit more robust that expands all films, I think that's gonna be a really nice collection. But I will
Yeah.
miss the 93 classic packaging.
That's true. I mean, maybe they could give it some cool flair and some neon colors
Yeah.
or something. Maybe something that kind of looks like the Lost World packages and stuff that we got. All that neon and yellows and blacks and greens and all that. Maybe we could go that direction or something. But yeah, that was my idea too. I was like, it's got to be because it's reimagined. If we're gonna reimagine what Jurassic World is, I'm gonna do, like a helicopter with a cool paint job or something, and it looks stylized. And we put Simon Mizrahi in there, and give him an interesting outfit, or throw a dino skin over his neck. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just wild stuff like that. So I can't wait to see what that is, and that's going to open up a can of worms because I've been talking for so long that I've been falling off that train, and they're not giving me a true reason to buy anything other than some
And
legacy stuff and Hammond collection, and they're gonna bring me back in if they do that. Because the '93 stuff I've been picking up that too. I haven't. I want to talk about some pros and cons too because I haven't been doing pre-orders for a while now.
I haven't pre-ordered a
Apologies.
single Beyond the Gates item myself.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about pros and cons, and I want to talk about Beyond the Gates. Where should we start? Pros or cons? Let's start. Let's start with the pros. All right. So Beyond the Gates was excellent, right? Like you were involved. I think it was excellent. Like a great, really great idea, and what you guys were able to, bring to that and grow it into with, kind of like a behind the scenes like featurette almost of these toys. I thought that was really excellent and something like we've all been laughing about different YouTube ventures that Universal has gone down in recent years, and this is not one of those. This was the one that was like, oh, this is legit, this is real. So yeah, so thanks for all that awesome work over those years. I mean, I think that was a true not con pro of the recent years as far as Mattel is concerned, and what do what they were able to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, and I appreciate Universal and believing in the vision when we came forward with it and enabling that, and really supporting it for so many years. And same with Mattel being such excellent partners. Um, it was mainly Mattel. I mean, Funko when we had them were great partners. And if I'm forgetting somebody else, but I think it was mainly just Mattel and Funko occasionally. But Universal were excellent partners, and they believed in our vision, and they really enabled us. And we never dealt directly with Target, but any like kind of tertiary interaction that we had with Target seemed to be really excellent. So Target was a fantastic partner as well. They really shared the creative vision on that,
Hmm.
and I think that that was a phenomenal experience. And I'm so happy that we were able to bring that vision to life. And I'm so happy that they allowed us to expand into like behind the scenes of the films and not just the toys when we brought that forward. Because again, that was a weird idea. Hey, let's sell toys, but let's also do behind the scenes featurettes. And let's do these interviews and let's then wrap it all back into the toy. Um, and it was a lot of fun trying to solve and troubleshoot, and it was very challenging. And Jack and I had both the best of times and the most challenging of times working on that. And it was just a great experience altogether. Uh, 3
Yeah.
seasons, and then Jurassic World revealed as well.
Oh
2
yeah, yeah,
seasons.
yeah. And I do, yeah, I want to talk about cons as well because I wrote it on both of my lists here. Like it also like caused a lot of like controversy. I feel like behind the scenes of like not controversy. That's too harsh of a word, but like when are
Pre-order
we gonna
times.
when are we gonna get these toys? Where are they? Why is this toy not like uploaded? Like why is it still not loading on the web page? Like so it caused a lot of mayhem. I feel like behind the scenes and maybe distrust between
I felt
Target
like
and Jurassic fans and all that stuff. So it was a weird situation, but a great idea, maybe not fully realized at some times.
I feel like the first year of Beyond the Gates had the best turnaround from pre-order to shipping, and I didn't see as many challenges or concerns. And then I think what happened was with Dominion being like a movie year, and I think that created challenges with like shipment dates and then like
Hmm.
reveal dates. And I definitely, it was a conversation that Universal took very seriously. We were very in tune with what was happening, so we would relay it, and it was a constant conversation, and it was something that I would constantly see, and people would constantly message me, and then I would constantly, Jack and I would then have conversations with Universal and try to problem solve it, and we're, obviously that wasn't anything that we controlled, but we constantly, and Universal heard, and they're like, hey, what do you think? Communications, outside of changing the shipping times, because there's literally we can't control how long it takes from something to get from like China, manufactured, get from
Yeah,
China,
yeah,
shipped out. So like, they were aware, and I do feel like I think I see that there are shipping times on Beyond the Gates this year where it says like estimated to ship now. So that conversation did lead. But I agree. I think the frustrating part is when Target stores were receiving the items before
yep.
the online shipments went out. And sometimes it was because they were breaking street date. So it wasn't necessarily a fault of the program necessarily, but it still created that sense of like, why am I even pre-ordering this if
Uh-huh.
I need to wait 2 months to get it? Or when other retailers would like break their like embargo dates or something. So it's like, oh, I pre-ordered it on Beyond the Gates, but I got it here first because they broke their contract by selling too soon. So yeah, because it was such a new program, those were the growing pains that we had to deal with, and I think that it did create some damage. But I think it's rebuilding that. I think it's starting to begin to rebuild that trust. But it's certainly,
Yeah.
I mean, like the reason why I haven't pre-ordered anything from Beyond the Gates is not any ill will or anything like that. It's partly because I am financially very insecure right now, to be entirely candid, and partly because of all that, where I'm like, well, I bet you I can find it in stores first.
Exactly. And I know like a lot of people were getting like their credit cards pinged like constantly, like when it came to like however long it took to get that thing shipped out or whatever. And that was one of the most frustrating things for me was the fact that like I would go to the store and I'd be like, it's here. Do I buy it also and then cancel? Like it was a whole thing. It was just caused a lot
Yeah.
of like friction. And it was like, and you mentioned also like items just going to other random places, like other retailers, and I was just like, I don't even know where to buy anything anymore. I am so confused as a
Oh,
as a major fan of this stuff, like it was
I
confusing.
what has really hurt the toy industry? The extinction of Toys R Us.
Mm,
The extinction of Toys R Us threw everything into non-toy centric retailers, and
yeah.
it creates a level of inconsistency that is very difficult to navigate. You just don't know where anything's going. You don't know what's coming out. You don't know like how they're going to handle it. Don't even talk to me about how Amazon handles Jurassic toys, because it's impossible to even search Jurassic World and click the toy category. It just goes back down to all. It literally, they have a thing that blocks you from searching toys in Jurassic World. Um, on Amazon, and half the listings aren't there, or half of them are there, but like they don't show up in the search bar. Like Google might ping them, or you need to have the direct link. If you don't have the direct link, good luck finding it. Some of them are in styles, so you see an item listing, it's not the one you want, but actually if you click that page, you can change the style of the item to find the toy that you want. The extinction of Toys R Us really just challenged the toy industry, and unfortunately I think that we would see better, more robust play sets if Toys R Us were still around. And I
Mhm.
think some of the cost cutting measures and the less amount of risk taking with the toys is a direct result of Toys R Us not going under because of poor toy sales, but going under because of poor investor management. Basically, uh, nearly criminal investor management. So,
Yikes. Yeah. And I don't know if you want to comment or make any mention of it, but like I'm sure you've been paying attention to the creator editions. What if you want to, what do you see as the point of this venture, the creator editions?
do you want my honest creative feedback? Like, if like somebody were to come in and say, like, hey, you're no longer involved, but we'd like to pick your brain.
Yeah.
Um, I would say that the creator edition is nearly there for an idea. I like the idea of highlighting different creators. But ultimately, Beyond the Gates was about the behind the scenes of the toys. So I think it's missing a bit of the both there. I think the Creator Edition would work better as shorter videos that were mainly catered for social media rather than YouTube. And I think that it would work better if it was going on the creators' channels as well as the YouTube channel, because I think half of these creators, they aren't even
Yeah.
sharing it on their own channels, and the Jurassic community doesn't know who they are. They don't have any trust built with them, and so it's not bringing in their audience because they're not posting about it. And they also keep repeating the same story. I think that seeing a lot of these photographers do their setup is really interesting, but it each episode is the same thing. It's here's how I take photos. And I don't mean any ill will against those creators, but it is not a compelling episodic format. It should simply be a 30-second toy sizzle reveal with some cool photography, and then something on their channel that does something like that. Like, hey, I had a chance to do some toy photography for the Beyond the Gates Creator Edition, or like the Beyond the Gates toy reveal. It should simply be some beauty shots of toy reveals, 30 seconds. If you're going to get rid of the Mattel making of and everything like that, 30-second beauty shots of footage. Pre-order now, only at Target.com. And then some sort of part that then goes to their channels that talks about how they make it. I don't think that that should be on the Jurassic World YouTube channel, simply because it's so repetitive right now.
Hmm.
We're not learning anything about how the toy was made, so each episode's how do you do toy photography. And yeah, I know each episode is about how you do toy design, but you can get into the nuance of each species. Toy photography doesn't necessarily change like that. So, yeah, I think that it should go more on their individual channels, shorter form content, and a deeper investment into social media engagement rather than YouTube engagement with this current format.
Yeah.
Unless you go back to the old school Beyond the Gates format, which I think lends itself more to YouTube direct. So that's my 2 cents. That's what I would do. If I were in charge of that, that's what I would do. I would focus more on social media, shorter form content, getting them to put things on their channels, and just more of a traditional beautiful toy shot, glory shot reveal with some footage and some pre-order information.
I love that. That's exactly like, what I've been thinking, especially in terms of the creators themselves. Like I absolutely agree that these photos and the videos have been really cool. Like they've been great to see, like the behind the scenes of what goes into making that. And I think it makes other people more creative and say like, "Oh, I could do that myself too." It's not maybe not too hard to set up this background and have some cool trees, and then I can take some cool pictures. And I mean, so that's pretty cool. But the fact that, and I keep checking every time, every month. I'm like, all right, let's dive into their profile. No posts whatsoever. Maybe a story.
Yeah,
Maybe a story. And it's
maybe.
it's mind blowing. And if you check the
I
catalog of their posts, not even any dinosaur content whatsoever. So outside of Ted Brothers, obviously Ted, we know is
Yeah,
is
yeah,
great.
when Ted got on, I was like, "Oh, cool. I wonder when they'll have
Yeah,
Brad on. I wonder when they'll have Tim on," everything like that. And then there was a random person. I was like, "Oh, never heard of them. Cool." And then another random person. I was like, "Oh, never heard of them. Cool." And then it was like a repeat of another random, the
yeah,
same random. I'm like, "Oh, we're repeating already. You're losing me here." I'll be
yeah,
honest. I think that it is close to having its own identity and an execution that makes sense, but it isn't there.
yeah. I agree. I just wonder what is the point if you're not going to have these creators showcase it. Why even bother? Like,
Yeah, they
I
need to
just
show
like,
that should be in the
yeah,
contract. Like, you need to post this on your channel, and not just
mhm,
like a little this and that. Like, it should be like, for one thing, Instagram allows the co-post feature, so you can both publish it
yeah,
like from people. So that if they have an Instagram, it should absolutely 100% be that. Another thing is they should get back to using Jurassic accounts. Maybe not only Jurassic accounts, because I do understand going to these big channels with this huge, robust following, because you want to break into new markets. You want to bring in people that aren't Jurassic collectors and maybe win them over to be Jurassic collectors. So I totally understand going to toy photographers that have audiences that are not Jurassic centric, because you have that opportunity to bring new people in. But if they're not putting it on their channels and not putting it on their accounts, then you're not getting a new audience. So it does not work. So right away, that needs to be something that's happening. That needs to be a communication thing that's agreed to be at first. And again, the episodes just shouldn't be like, here's how I do toy photography over and over again, because that's not sustainable. That's not
yeah,
interesting. I mean, and especially in the later seasons of Beyond the Gates, we were doing the same level of robust video photography, and we would do hundreds of shots each episode, and it was really challenging. And some of our shots were then less robust and less post processing because we had to do so many. And I think that some of these shots that they're doing are phenomenal, but I don't necessarily think that makes a web series. Um,
yeah. I get what you mean about it
it's
being a
going
little
through the stuff.
repetitive, the same content. Yeah, I'm so glad that you have the same feelings on that because I thought I was going a little crazy with the fact that like nobody's posting about it. I'm like, I felt like I'm the only one out there harping about this. I'm like, what's going on? This is
And
odd.
like I said, the fact that they've already repeated the same creator twice does not bode well. It seems really weird. Like, surely there are, for one thing, I mean, as far as I know, they haven't contacted you, correct?
No, not at all.
I would consider you a creator. You might not do the type of toy photography, but I imagine if they came to you, you would whip something up,
Figure it out.
and get something
Mattel,
out.
I can figure it out.
I,
I know how to take a picture. I can do
Same goes with Tim, Collect Jurassic. When I thought that they were going to do community spotlights, I was like, okay,
hmm
this isn't. I still kind of felt like some sort of way about using the Beyond the Gates name. I was like, well, this isn't really Beyond the Gates. And like, outside of my
Yeah.
own personal vested interests, I kind of thought of the audience. I'm like, well, are you going to keep that audience, or are they kind of going to go, are you diluting a brand that you can potentially bring back in time, depending on the way the wind blows?
hmm
So I would have preferred a different name, or maybe Beyond the Gates is a pre-order program. I don't know, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I don't know. I get it, but I don't. Is what I'm saying. I
Sure.
truly don't fully understand the new direction, but I also get the intention.
Yeah. There's been a few other missteps along the way that I kind of alluded to before. We've gotten, you know, speaking of like, I guess community and stuff like that, we've gotten the Amber Society. Should we bother? The Amber
Uh,
Society, we had that. That was like a
it was
whole
like
thing.
two episodes.
It was just like we heard your outcry of how bad it was, and we're not continuing.
It was so fun.
Again a great idea, but like just not executed correctly.
Well, it clearly never went into. It was clearly a good idea that started in a boardroom. And that doesn't mean that bad ideas only exist in boardrooms. Good ideas exist in boardrooms. They had a good idea, but the problem is it seems like it never left that boardroom in terms of creating
hmm
it. And that's where it succeeded in hatching an idea, and that's where it failed in executing an idea. Is it never left that like kind of sense of studio created content. It was
Yeah,
very scripted, and it got a lot of things wrong with all the scripting. It's remarkable. If it had real guests on it that weren't scripted and they were making mistakes, we would be a lot more forgiving.
it's
But
fine.
they're repeating the same marketing lines that have been corrected for years where, they say like, oh, the Indoraptor is the first male dinosaur. And everyone's like, have you watched a goddamn Jurassic Park? Like, and like that's been corrected for years now. So how are you still repeating this mistake? It was one of those things like, oh, this is cool idea, horrible execution. But
Yeah.
to the they gave it they old yellered it pretty quickly.
And I hate to bring it up, but the motion comics. I was thinking
Oh, I
about them a
forgot about
lot.
those. I
What?
forgot those existed. What a great idea! What a not great execution. But genuinely a great idea. I hope that comes back with a better execution.
I was thinking about it over the past few weeks now because of chaos theory, and it kind of overlaps. Like it's some of the, similar kind of situations and things. And, that those motion comics just abruptly ended on like an Allosaurus attack or something. He was like attacking a tree. I think the reporter was like in the tree or something. And like that was it. It just like felt like it was cut off at the knees and never came back or never finished. And
I imagine some of this stuff, the reason why it's probably not flourishing is probably monetary. And I do understand, like, things cost money.
sure.
And it's a challenge to create something like that at a reasonable budget when it doesn't have a direct through line in terms of financial returns. It's hard to justify it, it's hard to quantify it. So ultimately, I just imagine it became expensive. The quality wasn't there. The money wasn't there to give the quality that the audience wanted. And I think they probably quickly discovered, okay, the audience is engaging, so this is not worth it. But
Yeah.
it's challenging because it's like, okay, you should probably put more money into it and the audience will engage. But then is there a direct return beyond brand development and brand strengthening, which is harder to quantify? I think it's wholly important. I think that a lot of franchises, particularly Star Wars, understands that investment. But something like Beyond the
Yeah.
Gates is a lot easier to quantify because you turn it into direct pre-orders with a sales partner. Something like a motion
Yeah.
comic, a lot harder to quantify. But if you do it right, you can strengthen the brand and strengthen the resolve and respect around that brand and the interest. And ultimately, that technically will lead into more ticket sales, etc. So it's just about that indirect revenue return.
And I was having a conversation with somebody. I was like, I don't know, I'm like always wearing a Jurassic shirt somewhere, and somebody's like, "Oh, did you go see that did you go see that tour?" And I was like, "Oh, what?" Playing dumb. I'm like, "What? Was it Jurassic World live tour?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I saw it. Yeah, it was really awesome. It's been a little while." And then the person's like, "Oh yeah, I took the kids recently. It was awesome. We had such a great time." And I'm like, "Oh man, that's so cool. I wanted to like dive into it more with them." And then they're like, "Yeah, the best part was like I forget what they said, but there was like when we took a picture with the something or other." And I'm like, "We're not talking about the same thing anymore."
Oh, they're
I'm
talking
like,
about
"Wait, just I think just like some generic dinosaur exhibit thing." And I was like, "Okay, so but hey, the brand awareness is there for some reason. Like any dinosaur thing that people see, they associate it with Jurassic. And that live tour specifically, like I know we saw it together, and I think it was phenomenal. And it just ended. I think its official run, right? Like I think it's done.
oh, did
Done.
it? Oh,
I
I
I,
see. I
b-
was
I
not
believe
aware of that.
so.
I was
Yeah,
not
because I
aware of
saw a bunch of posts from the the cast members who've been there like the whole time, like just saying like goodbye to their characters and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh man, like that's like the end of an era. I feel like I loved that show. I thought it was silly at times, but like a really fun show. And I'm sad now that it's gone.
it was clearly targeted at a younger audience, but the concept was there. Sorry, my hair is killing me. This is why I shouldn't be in
Should
front
I?
of like a
I'll
conceptual
join you.
mirror.
I'll just like.
Like just like there we go, love it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I liked live tour again. Like I understand why people saw it and like they're like, well, it was for kids. I didn't really like it. Like yeah, I get it, but I thought it was pretty well done. I think that it had some interesting ideas, and I think for the format I think a lot of people lost sight of what the format is. Like it's a live performing show. Like it's
Hmm.
not going to be like it. mix the target audience with the format, and that is what it is ultimately. Um, yeah, I would like to see it continue. Also, I think that they missed a beat by not having Dr. Kate Walker or the Trode on in Camp Cretaceous. Um, I think that they missed a really big beat there, and it just constantly. That's the one issue with the Jurassic brand is it constantly feels like one hand is not talking to the other.
Yeah.
Film doesn't feel like it's talking to animation. Um, Story that feels like it's not talking to brand development. Uh, Brand development feels like it's not fully communicating with like merchandise, even though it technically is just like the way that you would imagine these like things like encapsulate. You have a lot of really sometimes you'll see something and they'll really nail it and you'll be like, oh cool, this is like a big change, like this is gonna like bleed over to everything else, and then it doesn't, and you're like, oh, then okay. Um
Yeah. I'm so
so
sad that there wasn't more crossover with stuff like that, and I've anytime we've theorized about new movies or new TV shows, I'm always referencing the live tour and thinking about like, wow, like they could cross over with this thing, and they never do. But and
mm,
then there was the whole drama about the soft canon of it all with Colin, and that was like a whole thing because we have the creators talking about it being official canon. Even Camp Cretaceous like official canon, but then Colin's like, no, things aren't. There's only soft canon and hard
yeah, well,
whatever. So
no hate towards Colin, but I never thought that he was the best shepherd for the franchise in terms of like in terms of trying to bring it all together, because he clearly wasn't interested in that type of like transmedia storytelling where everything kind of adheres to hard canon. Seems like he liked looser rules and he liked more freedom in terms of these formats being independent of one another but able to do their own thing. But that's not necessarily what the audience wanted or the brand wanted. So I always thought that they needed somebody else in that role, outside of Colin, because you could tell that his interests were aligned in a different manner. In his
yeah,
methodology approach was a different. He was given a role that he had just a completely different approach to than the audience and the brand's intentions. Is ultimately where it is.
yeah.
So
Shifting
no
gears,
insult. It's just
no. And
technical
I
thing.
love, because I know me and you differ quite drastically on the, thought on like the films and stuff like that. I really loved them all, and I liked what he ended up doing most of the time. Um, but like, yeah, the connection between things always let me down a little bit. But he always talked with the community. He was always like very, much outreaching people. Shifting gears to like the new movie and the new the way that we're going, I don't really see that happening anymore. I don't know that we're going to get that kind of output and the conversation between Universal or a creator and the fan base and stuff like that.
Um, and I suppose that's a pro and a con. You don't want to create that really strange parasocial relationship and have it kind of roll everything.
Yeah.
At the same time, having that type of communication was really nice and fresh and refreshing, especially in the early days before everything went to hell on Twitter. Um,
Yeah.
because like all
Yeah.
good things, it's gonna get rotted and infested from the core, and people are gonna become monsters. But yeah, Gareth doesn't have a social media presence. Um, we no, but none of the lead stars really do. I guess the only thing that we can hope is Frank Marshall becomes more interactive again in the future, because he used to be pretty
A
interactive.
little bit, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like when he spoiled the Indoraptor. Um, and then I think he like leaked something else by accident another time. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I think that losing that, but that's why also going back to what I was saying, I don't think a film director should be the one that's like in charge of like overseeing like the
Mhm.
grander. I don't think that whoever is in that position should like be rolling over the film directors. Whoever's doing the films should be the ones in charge, and whoever is overseeing the whole thing should then be kind of managing and communicating and making it all work and be like, hey, what if we like just change this name or just say like, oh, you're doing this, like, just so you know, this is what these are called. So, like, in case you want to, they just need somebody there,
Yeah.
like that Pablo Hidalgo of it all, I guess, to help make everyone's job easier and help everything make make everything a little bit more cohesive along the way.
Yeah, we've never had our Pablo or Dave Filoni or anything like that. I mean, Colin was kind of as close as it would come, but
But he didn't
yeah,
work for Universal. He was a film director and a writer.
yeah,
They needed somebody that worked in-house at Universal who was also a creative that could then help manage, like, okay, the brand team wants to do something story driven. Okay, the film team is doing this, but they need a little input here. Okay, the animation team is doing this. Okay, we're cooking up a pitch. Like, they needed somebody that was in-house at Universal that worked with all these different departments and all these different projects, and that also could create the story Bible, the lore Bible, that it could work in their head, that can communicate and just make things align a little bit more. Oh, okay, hey, like catch some of the inconsistencies. Like, hey, just so you know, the Jurassic World Lagoon was not on the coastline. Um, or some
uh,
things are less directly quantifiable in an image form, but maybe more egregious. So it's just like creating they need that support system. That support system did not exist, so I cannot blame these creatives that are working on these other programs for not getting things right, because they were thrown out into the deep water without a life raft or swimming lessons, essentially. So
yeah.
they
Well,
had a dog.
we've started to see a lot of casting and different things, and I know like
Yeah, have you seen the
Outpost and
full the
yeah,
full
I haven't. I've looked at the pictures of who's been shown off, but like this whole era right now has been so back and forth and wishy washy that I've like kind of just stepped back and I'm like, I'm just gonna wait and see what happens when all the casting and all the other people. So I started like following it like and posting and doing episodes and I was like, all right, I'm gonna calm down a little bit because like I just want to wait for like because we've only gotten one official official thing, which was the date. That was it. Everything else has been like a trade or something like that. So I'm waiting for the day. Hopefully it's like June 1st when they're like, here is everything you need to know officially. Here's the press release. Here's and I,
I,
that's all I want.
if I recall correctly, the movie is slated to begin filming. It's either like June 13th or June 17th or something along those lines.
Mhm.
So when I think day one of principal photography begins, I imagine there will be a tweet, an Instagram post, etc., something that goes out
You
that
imagine.
acknowledges it has begun, that type of thing, and starting in
Yeah.
Thailand.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, it's not always a super reliable source. I always expect more from the social channels, I think, but I never really get that return in the investment a little bit, you know?
yes,
It's
they might have
interesting.
to, without Colin there, because Colin basically took the reins on that. But without him there, I imagine they might be taking the reins a little bit, and maybe it'll be like Frank and like the digital marketing team kind of coinciding to
Mhm.
like make it all work. But yeah, I will be shocked if filming begins and there's not a tweet or acknowledgement. I think that is where I
We
think
have to.
in the past that's traditionally when we get that acknowledgement. I'm hoping maybe before then, though, maybe we'll get a title for Jurassic June. If they have a title ready, which they might not, because this movie's production schedule has been a little fast tracked. But if they have a title ready and they have a logo ready, then please drop it this June. Maybe drop it the day that they announce it.
I know. I was talking with Stephen Ray Morris, and I was like, because we've been waiting to record something together until they officially start talking about stuff, and they still haven't. And we're like, "Oh, we'll record soon, I promise. Like, we're gonna do it." And we're just like, we were talking today about like, please just do it so we can make our plans. We want to start prepping and doing things and like, doing our content
Something,
timelines and things. And yeah, I would love something.
something, especially like Universal doesn't have like a long history of like necessarily supporting Jurassic at things like Comic-Con or anything like that. So
Mhm.
I would love to see an investment into those types of formats and concepts, and I would love to see that type of news flow a little bit more organically and in a little bit more of an engaging way. They can bring and unify a larger community together, because I think that's the one thing is there's so many Jurassic fans, but they're so like they're so disorganized, and like Jurassic doesn't feel like it has an expansive fandom, even though it has one of like the largest fandoms, and that comes with a benefit because it's not as toxic because of that. Um,
Mhm. Mm.
there's challenges with the Jurassic community,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it ain't nothing like Star Wars or
Sure,
the
yeah.
worst one right now, Rings of Power. I made the mistake of tweeting something positive about Rings of Power, and I got like literally 700 replies of people that don't follow me.
Oh my god, I love that show. I thought it was great.
Telling me to F off and all these other things. Like, it was really bad. And I was like,
Wow.
where did you people come from? I was like, what is happening right now? All I said was, I wish more people gave the Rings of Power a chance, which was aimed at the people that never watched the show. And they're
Yeah.
like, I gave it a chance. I'm like, okay, then you formed your opinion. Probably for the wrong reasons. And trust me, I saw plenty of reasons why they didn't like it. Like, oh, there were black elves. I hate that show. I'm like, okay, so
Yeah.
your opinion doesn't count. Get the
Yeah.
hell out of my mouth. But like, uh, yeah, oh, man, that was scary. Like I was like
Yeah.
for like 5 days, I just had to like get hit with this constant barrage of like I was just like, I want to check my notifications. I tweeted things
Just see
about
this.
Jurassic in my new truck. Let me see what people are saying. Uh
Yeah,
anyhow,
yeah.
it made me feel a lot more proud of the Jurassic community for not really being like that. Is like as weird as it can get, it's not like that. So
Yeah, there
you'll,
may be a
you'll
few bad eggs here and there, but overall it's a pretty good community, and I think it
and
does
you,
need to be cultivated a little bit more, right? Like, it needs to be supported in a way, and I don't know. I don't know what they need to do. I'm not talking about, like, me or you or anything, but, like, they need to reach out to everybody in a way and get the full fan base kind of motivated and talking, and, it needs to be something better than it is. You remember the website, JurassicWorld.com or whatever, when they transitioned after the Jurassic World website, they had that, like, community page that just sat there doing absolutely nothing.
absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And
Yeah.
can we talk about how each update to the Jurassic World website has made it significantly worse? Um, like
I haven't checked it in a long time. What
it
is
went
even
from
at right now?
it went from that really, really cool in-world universe website that also had
Yeah.
things that if you click around that would support the films and the merchandise. Like if you click merchandise, like it would kind of break the immersion and like show things. Then it went to that other update that was no longer in world, but it was a pretty substantially nice looking website that had a
Mhm.
good mix of lore and news. And now it has what looks like a dollar store promotional page version of a
Yeah.
website.
It's
Um,
like I just feel like I'm supposed to sign up for, like, cable or something. Like, I don't.
yeah, yeah, this looks like Comcast.com/Jurassic World or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you go to the website, you click the menu and then go to partners. I'm pretty sure those aren't real partners.
Oh god. Yeah, is it the, like,
Pretty
pepperoni
sure those
tie-ins and
aren't
stuff or
real
what?
partners. It looks like the pre-baked partners on whatever GoDaddy thing they use to build this website.
Yeah.
No, this and then the fact that the website's only Dominion focused this late in the game doesn't make sense to me. You have this whole franchise to support. You have Jurassic World Chaos Theory that is out now, but you have this wildly outdated website that is like objectively a step down from what you had before in terms of content and range and engagement and reasons to return to the website. Um, it's disappointing. It's disappointing.
Yeah.
Um,
There's been a lack of support, I think, across, to different anniversaries and just all kinds of stuff. It feels like you always expect something to happen and then it never does, or it's just a tweet, or it's just like, whatever, and it kind of blown off, and it doesn't feel like they necessarily care about the franchise, so they're not giving the fans a reason to care.
I know they care about the franchise. I genuinely know they really care about the franchise, but I
Yeah.
agree that it can be the perception that it
Hmm.
can come off that way. And I understand there's not a dedicated Jurassic team. The people working on this franchise that love and care about it are also busy working on Minions and Fast and the Furious and How to Train Your Dragon and all these other things. They are stretched thin. It is this mega corporation that has so many departments that things get very challenging and there's a lot of corporate legwork that has to happen to make things happen, and they're spread so thin, and there isn't necessarily a robust brand bible that they can then build from, and so I feel like they are unsupported by their own selves.
Mhm.
But like also it's not any individual's fault because no individual can actually change that. It's the systemic issue that really needs to have a robust overhaul, but it's how Universal handles its brands, and it's not necessarily a bad thing because most of their brands are handled well enough. It's just Jurassic is a different animal that does not fit into that fold of their typical brand management, and they haven't created a separate machine for that, which they probably need to because they're trying to do content that needs a separate machine to help them. Is
Yeah.
that's my takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've got Fast and Furious is kind of, stalling, we'll say. It's fallen
Misfiring.
behind quite a bit. Yeah, misfiring. The Dragons could be, flourish again once again with the live action movie and stuff, and obviously a new land coming to Epic Universe, and so that's going to be interesting to watch going forward. Wicked obviously going to be huge for a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
the trailer looked good. I've never seen Wicked. I don't really know a lot about it, but I looked at that trailer. I was like, this looks like what Disney movies used to look like to me. Like, really
yeah.
pushing the genre. I don't know. Anyways, it looks good.
But also a very universal trailer because they gave away the
Give
entire
away the
movie.
whole. Same with Chaos Theory. Why does Universal give away the whole plot and every set piece in their trailers? I do not know. But it really
I
is.
yeah.
Other studios also do it, but it feels like Universal always does it.
I just want to be surprised, I guess, because like I'm not talking about like trailers in movies. I want to be surprised by Universal and their marketing and what they're doing on social media. I want to feel like they care. I want to feel like they want a great fan base. They want to, you know, I don't care about their brand a little bit, and it doesn't necessarily come across that way. And like you said, I know they do, but like it just doesn't always feel that way. So hopefully, maybe if they want to change the sense of what this franchise is, if they're trying to I don't know if they're trying to get away from a certain stigma or anything like that. Maybe they should try to change it up and surprise the fan base a little bit. Hopefully, they will going forward. I don't know.
Can I just say something, Universal, in case you're watching this? Brad is one of the most positive creators out there who usually is a little bit more. You're being very careful about the way that you say these things, very positive, and I think you're very valid about the way you say it. But the fact that you're saying this means that there is a big issue in the way that you're being as direct about it, and that's not an insult against you. That means that
No,
things
yeah.
have gotten to the point where it's like, well, like some things need to be fixed. Um,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I think that's very, very valid because, yeah, again, I hope you don't take that as like me thinking that like you aren't. I think that you're careful about the way that you talk about things, and I think that's a positive thing. And I don't think you talked
Yeah.
about it also.
No, no, no.
Anyways,
Look, I'm very fine with like coming out of and saying like what they're not doing correctly, but like I also when it comes to the films, I guess you could say I don't care about a lot of the stuff because like I just love them and I just like I don't have many criticisms. I can see some other movies I can't see them at all and I'm just totally blind to them. But like I think when it comes time to like call out things, you got to call them out because like
yeah,
I just want it to be better and service the community and the fan base.
constructive criticism is a very positive thing. Even though criticism by its nature doesn't sound like a positive thing, it actually is a very positive thing, and I find that you handle it in a very good way, and you bring
Well,
it up
thanks.
in engaging ways that actually offer a conversation and something that's not necessarily only like subjectivity of I wanted this but I got that, and it's like, well, okay, yeah, you wanted that, but like that's your subjective opinion.
Yeah.
The constructive criticism handled in a way that's more about like kind of objective truths is oftentimes the best way to handle it and not
Yeah.
say
I've tried to come away from movie criticism in a way that like I'm not going to sit here and criticize the movie for what it didn't do. What it didn't do that I wanted it to do or something like that. I'm going to value it based off of what it is, not what it could have been or whatever. It is what it is. Like, so let me just talk about that and move on from there. Yeah, sure. Would have Dominion been a better movie if it was split in two, or would it, certain aspects have been better? Yeah, but like I kind of liked everything we did get at the same time. So I get it, but like I also it doesn't make me feel necessarily any better to tear things down and to go too crazy on stuff. But I just, I'm
Dominion.
pointing out all the flaws on things, but like I love the live tour, the movies, the video games, even though I don't play them. I love the parks, I love all of these things so much. So it's like really hard to criticize too much, but I do,
Dominion is 80% amazing ideas with mediocre execution and 20% like bad ideas. Most of the bad ideas are like retconning Maisie or making her like the chosen one type thing with Charlotte Lockwood. Like I think it just got too convoluted. But most of the ideas, like the Locust, I will defend day and day night. Like I will.
yes.
That's a phenomenal idea. Was it the right movie to introduce that in? Maybe not. Maybe not. But I think Dominion wasn't the movie that made the mistake with the dinosaurs on the mainland approach. I think Fallen Kingdom was the movie that made that mistake with like how they framed it. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I will say you did bring up something that I wanted to touch on is, are you worried about Jurassic Park Survivor or Survival absolutely butchering the lore and not knowing what dinosaurs are on the island, among other things? Like, is that a worry? Like, do you think that they're going to acknowledge that there was a Metricanthosaurus on the island? There was Stegosaurus.
Dude, I'll be honest, I don't even think I knew that the other day, like until 3 days ago. So
Yeah, so
it was in the Evolution too, right? Like, didn't they just introduce that? And I was like, I don't know what this is. And if somebody was like, I think it was in, I was like, oh,
yeah, it was one
so
of the
it doesn't
species.
bother me, but
Or like, do you worry? Like, we clearly see the trailer and the Jurassic Park Velociraptors that are supposed to be the female raptors. They are blue, painted vaguely like the female raptors from Jurassic Park, but with yellow eyes, which is what the males have. You worry that the designs are going to be off-put. Like, I kind of worry that they have not been given the support they needed to align it to the expectations of AAA content that other franchises get. Like, I do worry that this will miss. I'm hoping the gameplay is good, is basically what I'm getting at, because I do worry that the story and the world building is going to really not align. That is my biggest worry.
Well, I mean, based off of what we see, like the way that they're recreating things looks, one for one in terms of like the setting and things like that. So I'm excited about that. That looks pretty good. So why would you go to that much effort and get 1-to-1 there, but like not other
But then
aspects? Like,
Jurassic World dinosaurs and
yeah, it's concerning a little bit, but I don't really care about dinosaur designs all that much. That doesn't really bother me. I don't care that every dinosaur is just blue, with a reskin or something like that. Like that never really bothered me too much. But yeah, I don't know if they start getting lore and start like we uncover things in the visitor center or wherever else. That would be a little weird, I guess. It would definitely pull me out of the situation. But I hope we get to not, like sidestep a lot of the main story from the films and just touch on things that we never got from the novels or something like that. I think that would be the best way to go.
So yeah, I hope that we get to see some of those species that we never got to saw, that were on the park map and that were DNA that Nedry stole. I imagine there's going to be pteranodons in the game, because that is an enemy class, a flying enemy class. That's a pretty traditional aspect in terms of gameplay. So it makes sense for them to bring them in. But I do worry that for some reason they're going to be the Jurassic World pteranodons, which is going to make no sense when we obviously have two different types of Jurassic Park pteranodons that should absolutely take precedence, both logically and canonically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that like I know that they haven't got this wrong yet, but I'm just looking at the way the brand's been handled on like outings like this, and I'm like, oh boy, let's see how they like the gameplay footage not inspire hope when I saw the Jurassic World designs as opposed to Jurassic Park designs.
Sure,
like,
I was fine with like what we got in Aftermath. I know that was not like a super great recreation of some of those creatures, but I'm okay. I thought it was fine. I still got scared when I'm sitting in a locker, trying to hide from a velociraptor. So that worked for me, But yeah, I don't know. What's that?
I said I got scared by the motion sickness. So that game
yeah,
really well. that game worked really well when you could actually play it the way it's intended to be played by actually moving around. But
Mhm.
let me tell you, I don't have a space available to me that offers enough space, so I very quickly reverted to the like controls, and I was like, "Ugh." I don't get
Yeah.
motion sick either. That's like the only thing I've ever gotten motion sick. I played other VR games and not get motion sick, and I was like, this game is kind of fun, but not really robust enough to be feeling this much pain to play
Yeah.
it.
I ended up playing seated the entire
Yeah,
time, and I don't know if that messed me up or what, but I definitely felt a little queasy here and there
if you would have
playing
played
it.
it standing and moving around and ducking, you would not get motion sick. Playing it seated made me motion sick. The only way that I found that worked a little bit is I started playing it in a swivel chair.
Well, that's what I
So
was, and it still got to me. I was playing in this chair here. I was just like,
but
you know,
I I played like the first level running around and ducking, and I was like, "Oh, this
yeah,
is really." And then I kept hitting my table, and I'm like, I had to like spin around circles, press the button so I could turn around, but technically keep walking in a straight line. And
yeah,
after a while, okay, this is the technology is cool, but it's not supported in a way that can be played. Anyways, I thought but anyways, the designs, because it was stylized, I didn't have any issue with the designs not being 1-to-1 because it was stylized. Do I think stylization makes sense for virtual reality? No, not really. I mean, if you want to be in the virtual reality Jurassic world, then you should probably want it to look like it kind of felt like a
yeah,
mismatch of ideas that didn't fully align, but cool idea.
yeah.
Alien Isolation Light. Now we're gonna get Alien Isolation. Hopefully, just Alien Isolation. I don't know. We'll see. There's so much game. There's so much we don't know. Um,
Yeah. So I do want to switch gears a little bit again because I know you
yeah,
uncovered something for Jurassic June. Like you spotted something just recently, right?
yeah. So when I was doing my daily last 24 hours Jurassic search, I spotted a
The
Italian.
usual thing we all do, right?
Yeah, I mean, people are like, "How do you find this?" I'm like, literally, I type Jurassic into Google, last 24 hours, go down to images,
Yeah.
and scroll until something pops out as new and catches my eye. And it
Yep.
takes about 30 seconds, so it's pretty easy to do right before I fall asleep. You know,
Yeah.
um, I spotted the Jurassic June logo on a like ad for like I think a Chaos Theory viewing party at like for an Italian toy store or something along those lines. I can't recall offhand. I think they're
So,
gonna
so
like
it's
have
not
the
like
toys
it's not an
and
Italian Roblox or something like that. It's just a
no, no,
toy
no,
store.
no, it's a toy store and it's like, oh, the toys are coming out. We'll do like a little viewing party. But all the graphics were clearly the marketing graphics that every partner is using for Chaos Theory. And on top of that, there was a Jurassic June logo that very much screamed made by Universal. And they're not going to make some random toy store little Jurassic June logo. So to me, that says, okay, there is a Jurassic June initiative. That is, they officially acknowledged Jurassic June last year for the first time. And now this year, they've taken a step further by creating a dedicated logo for it. And
Hmm.
okay, well, Chaos Theory's already out, so they could announce season 2 of Chaos Theory then. Um, they will probably have some sort of like Mattel Creations exclusive toy. Jurassic Park Survival at Summer Games Fest, but then the new movie's going to start filming. So I think that we might see some proper like 4 weeks of Jurassic news type of thing coming this month, or well, it might be this month when this episode comes out. So
That
uh,
that would be very exciting.
yeah,
That's cool
yeah,
that they co-opted like the community initiative, right? Like
yeah,
and got that thing going, and I'm fine with that. I think that's awesome that they're at least acknowledging it and getting involved. I was a little disappointed last year for the 30th anniversary. I think they just made like a single tweet and that was it. They just moved on. I'm
yeah.
like
I
okay.
did a lot more. It's the 30th anniversary. It's June. Like we all expected something last year that was a little bit more robust, or at least a little bit more, if not in terms of news, in terms of like new content celebrating the old content, and it wasn't
Mhm.
really there. But I think that there's enough on the horizon right now that they could actually support it with maybe it's not going to cost a lot of money. They don't have to do these in-depth featurettes or new content or whatnot, but they could at least do like every Thursday there's a news drop or something like that. And on
Yeah.
some it might be a little bit more, but if they can support June with like this Jurassic June every Thursday, tune in for an exciting Jurassic announcement. That's really easy with all the stuff on the horizon. That's really easy, and hopefully they
Yeah.
can even do more than that. But I hope that they nailed the concept of Jurassic June. It's harder. June is a whole month. It's not May the 4th. It's not just one day that you can just media blitz. But if you make a plan like that, I think it's very sustainable. So
You know,
fingers
Star
crossed.
Wars Star Wars has May the 4th, but they also do this stuff year round. It's constant, in their neck of the woods. So it's like, they could do it any time of the year. Jurassic we're
Yeah.
just asking for a month, or a day, something. So I know last year we got like the 30th anniversary press release with like it was a really big list of things that they were doing. So I'm hoping we could get one of those things
It
again.
was
That would
just
be
a
nice.
list
I'd
of
love to
things that you
see.
can buy.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were upset about that list and it wasn't really a whole lot, but like I kept going and diving into it. I'm like, well, actually, like I know it's mostly stuff you could buy, but there are some experiences and things you can do. I definitely want them to go a lot farther, not necessarily this year, but like in the future with
In
events
the future,
and different things. Like it would be so great if they utilize Jurassic June in a great way and again, cultivate that fan base and stuff. So we'll see, but I'm glad they at least have
and
a logo.
create more of a global experience that you don't have to be like in one of 3 cities to experience something a little bit more
Tell me about it.
robust and
My
unique.
God.
Uh, especially travel costs money, and I understand that a lot of times experiences like that are very specific to central locations, but
Hmm.
most of the time with other brands and franchises, you have a lot of time to plan that, and you have a lot of advanced warning, which has been a major complaint with Universal grown initiatives for Jurassic. Is like, would have loved to know about this sooner than 2 weeks in advance. So I hope that if there is something like that, it's something that's more accessible through the internet and or more accessible as a global experience or something, one way or
Yeah.
another. So that I think that's a valid complaint, and
Yeah.
I I hope that they find a way to. It's challenging. I don't envy them. I think that they have a lot to deal with, and it's not easy. But I hope they navigate
Yeah.
it well for everyone's sake.
For everyone. Yeah. You know what? It sparks my memory because like when I went got an invite to go see Ahsoka the premiere in New York City and got to go to a movie theater to go see it.
I don't think
But
I knew
they
you did
also
that.
Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, dude,
No.
it was awesome. It was so great. I got to go to was it the I think it was the same theater that we saw Fallen Kingdom at.
Oh yeah.
So I think oh no, was it that one? I don't remember. No, it might have been a different one. But like no, I think I went to that one again with Neems. That's what I did. So it was a different one, but another AMC or something like that. We got to go to see Ahsoka, and they also had screenings in like L.A. and Orlando and different places all around the world. And the social media teams like promoted it in such a
Mm.
grand fashion. Now I know it was during the actors strike, and so like they weren't out there to promote this, so they were kind of using us to get the promotion
Yeah,
for the
yeah, yeah.
show out there. That's fine, I don't care. But like, I just wish Jurassic would kind of use that mentality and like get fans from all over the world in one big promo and just like hype it up to show that there are people in every neck of the woods. Because I've always talked about this and with different people I've brought up on the show, and we all have the same exact mentality when it comes to this fandom. It's like I thought it was just me. I thought I was the only one. When I was a kid, I was the only one who liked this movie, or my cousin and my sister. We were the only ones who cared about Jurassic. But then, you start to find message boards, and then you start to find Twitter and all these other places, and you find out, oh, you like this. Oh, somebody in, some other country likes it. Oh my God, this is a huge fandom. So give the fans the ability to kind of celebrate in that way. I think that'd be really special. It was
Yeah.
great to do it with Star Wars, so I think it's time Jurassic did stuff like that. I'm not expecting, I know it's already passed, but like Chaos Theory, like in a theater, that would have been so sick to see like 2 episodes or something.
And it's
Who
not
knows?
enough to justify it. It honestly, that would look good on a big screen. That would look really cool on
Yeah,
a big screen. Um, and maybe with season 2, I'm hoping that Chaos Theory does numbers. I'm hoping that it it does very well. I've noticed there's like only 5 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, which is really weird to me.
Hmm.
I was very confused when the embargo date came out, and it was basically only you and Jurassic Outpost who had reviews out. Now I was looking around, and I was like, "Where the hell is everybody? Where are the
Yeah.
reviews?" Did they forget to give out screeners, or did unfortunately like the outlets write it off because of where Camp Cretaceous went and went, oh, it's a kids series, we're not gonna have the metrics, but it's not worth it. I'm afraid I don't know what it is, but like it seems like the only coverage is happening is officially co-branded content, like hey, exclusive reveal, because otherwise we're not covering it unless it's an exclusive that
Yeah.
gets us,
Mhm.
you know, that bums me out because the show is very good. So I'm hoping that the metrics start to feed in a positive way and brings in new audiences and surprises people. And as the show continues, it may grow to be something larger because the content, at least with season 1, is there.
So let's start to wrap this up then. Any final I guess thoughts or ideas or anything you want to put out there into the world that like you think would make maybe like Jurassic June or being a Jurassic fan even better, as this new film and all this other stuff's coming out.
Um, God, I mean, there's so many, and it's also very subjective. Um, I think that initiatives that wrap so like I'm sure you've seen like darkjurassic.com exists. It's a purchased
Yeah.
domain by DreamWorks.
I just went there and
And
and it was nothing, so I was like, "Oh."
yeah, I think that we need to start seeing things like that all the time, in one form or another. Dino Tracker could have been something that continued and evolved to, go from a pre-Dominion story to a post-Dominion story to a pre-Jurassic World 4 story or something, if the timeline aligns at least, which we don't know. And if not, I think that JurassicWorld.com, I think just things that sustain a evolving story over time that embraces the content like chaos theory and wraps it all and weaves it all together would be really positive. I think doing a better job to drive merchandise into more cohesive visions would be kind of a cool thing. um I hope that if there's another crowd fund, they understand what a crowd fund, because I
Uh,
haven't missed words in saying they did not understand how crowd funds work with that set,
yeah.
because it didn't singular focus, which is my main issue with like the Jurassic World toy line in general. It doesn't seem to have like a singular directive focus.
Yeah.
So that would help. I don't know. There's so many different routes, but I think what I would like to start to see is just a cohesive vision that understands the story, the brand, embraces every film, that starts to try to tie it together and not just act like Blue is the same Velociraptor as a Jurassic Park Velociraptor as a Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor. I don't want answers for why they're different or how they came to be. I just want acknowledgement that they are different and that they all exist. That's it.
That would
Little
be
things like
great.
that. Less is more.
Yeah.
Less is genuinely less is more. Don't tell us why it's different. Don't tell us how it's different. Make it a mystery and never answer it, but acknowledge that it exists. And that way you have this huge toy box that you can embrace and you can start taking little tidbits out of and little moments that you can acknowledge in the lore and supporting these supporting the talent that writes the new content. Start creating a more cohesive vision across the board. And I think that if you have a more cohesive vision across the board, and not just within film and media, but also social media, and not just like random TikTok, like, oh, this moment, if you start, that
Yeah.
stuff's valid.
This moment.
That can't be the only content. If you start to treat
Coolest
your
dinosaur. Or
if you start
is it cake?
treat they need to treat the audience like the audience understands the franchise, for the audience to actually engage with the franchise is
Yeah.
really what it comes down to. Because I don't think they have faith that the audience is interested. So the audience isn't interested because they're not putting out content that will engage them, at least on social media. It's like, yeah, they're
Mhm.
not interested in your content because you're not creating anything to challenge them or engage them. You got to do that first before they come to you. Is ultimately what it comes down to. Create a more unified brand that gives us something to talk about and gives us something to be excited about, and create content for fans of all ages and interests. And just stop trying to make Jurassic Fast and the Furious. You have Fast and the Furious already. So let Jurassic be Jurassic.
Yeah.
And I think we're good.
Well, one more thing I want to end on this too. Sorry, I keep bringing stuff up, but since you kind of touched on it a little bit, I want to know what is, regardless of what Jurassic World 4 or whatever is, what's the perfect movie you want to see next?
I don't know. I don't necessarily have a specific thing I want. I just want a good script. I just want a movie that is well directed with a good script. That's it. I just want something with some really good character development, story that is cohesive and well put together. And I guess I have my lines in the sand I don't like to see crossed. I don't like the dinosaurs to be depicted as monsters. I don't like logic to be thrown out the window. So that both, while I say I don't want the dinosaurs to be depicted as monsters, I also don't want them to say, we like the dinosaurs, that's why we're making these movies. So the dinosaurs on mainland, we have to treat it as a good thing. Coexistence. Like, no. They are an invasive species. I am not pro eradication of the dinosaurs in the Jurassic movies, but I'm also not pro, like, let them roam free. You got to be smart about it. So there are certain lines in the sand there. I would like to see the future movies embrace original designs from Jurassic Park alongside Jurassic World, alongside all new designs. Like, I don't want one or the other. I want them all to coexist and commingle. And I want it to feel unified. I just want it to feel like it's part of the same universe and not feel so disjointed, because it feels so disjointed right now. Start bringing it together. And that means bring some Jurassic Park designs with some Jurassic World designs with some Jurassic World New Era designs. Let the retro designs of Jurassic Park live alongside scientifically accurate designs of new species. Create characters that are compelling, that challenge us, that are smart, that aren't no more military leads. That's what I want. No more military. That's it. Characters that understand dinosaurs and can not just be a conduit for the audience, but also have a reason to be interacting with them.
That's a lot of thoughts for I don't know.
But I don't have a specific plot. I don't have a specific time. I don't have any of that stuff. It's more of just like get back to those goals that they had when making Jurassic Park. They write about it in depth. They do not mince words about what Jurassic Park was supposed to be and what they did not want to do. And the new films do exactly what they explicitly said they don't want to do with Jurassic. What they didn't want to do with Jurassic Park. So just get back to those methodologies. The stories can be wildly different. Just get back to those lines in the sand. And I think that you can blend the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World era very well while also going in a whole new direction.
You hear that, Universal? Let's stick with Mattel's idea and let's reimagine Jurassic World.
Jurassic World
reimagined.
You've been watching Not Beyond the Gates. You've been watching the Jurassic Park Podcast. Nothing to pre-order now. Only at Jurassic Park Podcast.
I'm going to put that at the start of every show, I think. I like that.